everybody, Mr. O here, and we are not in the studio. So I want to apologize for any of the sound issues. We might hear other voices in other classrooms, and the lighting. The lighting is probably going to be the worst of it all. But it is important to get some of these videos out, and maybe these are something I'll redo down the line in case you guys are interested. I'm going to introduce the lesson, and then I will put it into time lapse. I'm not going to do the whole picture in time lapse because when I explain it, you will understand. So the lesson was to do a sci-fi landscape, and there's going to be two parts to this drawing. I just want to describe that I'm using Bristol board, but drawing paper. I created a ink gutter, meaning this is where I can just grab the picture and not get ink all over my hand. But as you can see, I did cross into my little clean area just so I could do different things. What I'm going to do is the first step is actually learning how to use dip pens. So I have a large dip pen and a smaller detailing one. So I have two different sizes, and then I have an inkwell. And I actually have two ink wells because I just want to show you this one just in case you have to use one with a smaller top, just to have a better understanding. I do have a paper towel, and I do have a tissue that I'm going to put my hand so I'm not smudging the pencil. I'm trying to keep things clean, but as you can see that I was drawing, the whole point of this project is to draw all these little tiny little details. I want to, show things that are unique, and even with the ink pens, I want to go even more with the details. So the first part is I'm going to do this landscape, this junkyard planet. And then the second part is I'm going to show you how to use both the ink pen and the brush together, and we're going to do a starry galaxy background, like on an alien planet. So when it comes to the ink pen, it's very important you understand how fragile they are. It's hard to show without bending, but the metal splits in the middle. This is how the pen takes up ink and then it drops ink. So when I put a little pressure, it gives me a thin line. If I put a lot of pressure, it gives me a thicker line. If I put too much pressure, it bends it. And it may not look like it in the little one, but it does the same thing, okay? So I'm gonna get started, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do a couple lines with both pens just so you can see them. And then I'm going to just put it in a time lapse, okay? And but I do want to show the ink wells. This is going to be the normal ink well. As you can see, the ink is fresh and it's large, so it's going to be easy to put in there. Now, here is a simple question that I think drives all art teachers nuts. Don't put your pen, don't leave it in the ink well when you walk away. You have the cap. Place it on the cap or place it on the paper towel. Because if you look at this inkwell, let me warn you, if you use a cork, see how snug that is? Please don't push down too much and see the ink on the cork. I'm going to put that on the paper towel. And look at how tight that is to the pen. So you can see it barely fits. Did I get ink? No, I didn't. So I'm going to go down. You don't want to fill all the way. And then even I have my scrap paper above. I'm just testing to make sure I get the stroke, because the pens I'm starting with are going to be brand new. I'm going to use the whiter inkwell because it allows me to see it better. And so I'm now going to start inking. Now, I'm going to grab my tissue, of course. Now, if I start inking, I want you to look how dark actually everything is. So I realize maybe there should be one more thing I do before that, because I made the mistake of almost skipping ahead. This is a kneaded eraser. It's a stretchy eraser. You guys are aware of that. And I rolled it into a snake. One thing that can actually lighten up the pencil, because I was drawing this, is I'm going to just roll it up and then roll over what I've drawn. Now, the dark areas are going to kind of still stay dark. I didn't mean to color in, but it happens. You guys will accidentally do it too. As you get older, as you get more experience, you'll get used to not doing that. But even me being old, I'm not used to doing that completely. And so I still make a mistake. It's not a lot of pencil that I picked up, but it's enough where now I can easily tell which is my ink line and which is my pencil line. And so when I start going, I'm going to work along, and I've made a mistake, and that's okay. I'm going to dip my pen, or dip my pen, and I hope you guys don't need to actually see me do that. I'm using my bigger pen to begin with, and all the marks I'm going to just outline. And anytime I see a little bit of fade, it could have been just the way I twisted the pen, but I'm just going to dip it in the ink. If you feel like you're getting too much ink, just wipe it off on the side. That's why we don't want to rest. We shouldn't get, like a paintbrush, we shouldn't get ink all the way up here. When you first begin, you might get a lot of black fingerprints. Don't worry about that in the beginning, but your goal over time is not to do that. And you'll see that I'll bounce around in the picture because there's some places I want a lot darker than others. And where I need a lot of black, I'm not going to worry about the pen just yet. I am going to do a few things. Like I said, I'm going to put this in time lapse here in a second, but I just want to show you the smaller pen. And as you can see, it's the same thing. Just got to get the ink going, and I'm going to test it first on my sketch just to make sure. Now, some people feel like, well, it's almost the same size, but I can get a lot thinner with this. So if I need to do hatch marks, as you can see, I can be very thin with my hatch marks. If I need to draw smaller lines, and I'm not worried about these extra details, they'll be just fine when I do it time lapse. Now, the time lapse is only going to be this first corner. The way I rotate the paper is I actually start here, and then I'll do here, and I'll go all the way through until I'm almost upside down. And that's actually how I'm going to start with the space too. This is where I start with space and work my way over. So don't try to keep your paper in one direction. Okay, does that make sense? All right, so I'm going to just click it to time lapse so you can just watch me do a section. All right, guys, I'm going to stop right here. I think you get the idea. Let me kind of go over something I didn't go over before. Everyone always asks me what is the proper way of holding, or they don't ask. And as you can see, I can actually use the pen in both directions. Now, is one direction better than another? I think it's more comfort level. I've always done it with the curve going out, but I've known many kids and adults who've done it, and as you can see, it works just fine. Now, I want you to look how much ink I'm really getting. Once I start going, you probably saw that I was doing a lot more faster, because I think once the ink pen really gets broken in a little bit, and that's both sizes, you will probably also discover if you push hard on the little one, you can make the lines just as thick. And the other thing we didn't really talk about is pointillism. Don't forget, it's not just hatching and cross hatching. It's the pointillism that you can do with the pen. That's awesome. Now, in the next video, I am going to talk about space and using an ink brush, some white pens. Now, at the very end, I'm gonna roll up my kneaded eraser like a snake again and get rid of this excess pencil. So if you feel like, oh, some of that doesn't look the greatest, don't worry. One, you're still gonna go back in and draw as much detail. There's tons of details that I can add that I haven't even drawn in. Anywhere you wanna put details, and then you just go in with your eraser and clean up the pencil. But I want you guys to know this, that you are beautiful, and you guys have a lovely day. All right, bye-bye.